Alright, looks like we got some building materials. What are we doing today? Well, nothing today, but tomorrow I'm going to be tearing apart the entire front entryway of our house. Bought a new screen door, got some new sheathing, some new siding, got some lumber. Oh yeah, this is happening. This is totally happening. I got some more lumber over there. I got some concrete repair materials. I won't be using that stuff, but I will be using the repair mortar. This is a new handle for the new door. So I got sealers, I got some foam. Oh yeah, we're going in all the way, baby. What's this? Oh, that's the vinyl patch for the nail holes for the vinyl trim boards. Yeah, let's take a look. Okay, so the plan of the deal is we're going to be pulling back this siding. All the siding is coming off. These trim boards are coming off, and that'll reveal the original siding. In fact, I should be able to start pulling this stuff off now. Let's take a look. What's behind it? Door number 1. Get my claw hammer there. So this is going to come off. Let me get some tools. I even prepared by putting brand new blades in all my cutting machines. Because I've been cutting a lot of PVC vinyl, and that's this stuff here. I'm using this for all exterior trim boards that I install. I'm using PVC. It's expensive as fuck, but it works, and it will last forever. At least that's what they say. So basically what we're doing is we're starting the process of repairing. How you doing, buddy? We're repairing the water damage, and well, first we're going to repair the cause of, then we're going to repair the effects of all of this water damage. So I've got these floor joists, which are actual legit 2x8 floor joists. That's 8 inches exactly by 2 inches exactly. They don't really do that anymore. Anyway, we're going to be tearing apart what's above, what's causing all this damage. When they built this house, for some stupid reason, they cantilevered this concrete pad into the foundation wall as you see it, or into the basement. And they didn't really do anything for preventing water, other than maybe putting some caulking around the siding, and the wood siding, by the way, wood siding, yeah. And anyway, over 66 years of use and elements, it has caused these tripled up floors. Thank God they're tripled up, but it's caused them to rot. On this side, 2 of them have rotted. On the other side, only 1. So we have to fix the reason this is happening first, and then we can start repairing floor joists. I'm going to be cutting out these 2 right here. This one is solid, it can stay, but these 2 are coming out as well. This is a big project, but I'm going to take it in small chunks and we'll get it done. Okay, so what's actually happening is water is running off the slab and down, and underneath this vinyl there is wood siding, this stuff here. So let me tear some of this down and we'll take a good look. Alright, now we have a better view of what's going on. So this is the original siding. I actually like this stuff. This looks really nice. Very, what would you call that? Colonial revival. 1950s colonial revival look to it. I kind of like that. But you see what the problem is when they pour the slab. There's absolutely nothing here. And it doesn't look like there was originally anything there to prevent water intrusion. And that's the problem we're having. That's why we're doing all this. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. There's nothing, no flashing, there's no... It makes no sense. Why would they do it that way? But the good news is this board does not appear to be as far gone as I was expecting. So we'll definitely have to take it off. I was prepared to go all the way back to the studs on this one, but I don't think I'm going to have to do that. They put furring strips over here to support that vertical siding that they used in the 90s. I think that was done sometime in the 90s. And then we'll have to work our way along this way. We're going to keep, now that metal stuff up there, that's all original. That's in good shape. We'll keep that. We'll get the rest of this old J channel out. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use my mortar mix. Once I get this wall rebuilt and ready to be sided, I'm going to use my mortar mix and I'm going to build like a lip around the edge of the slab. I'm going to try to prep the concrete so that it'll take the mortar repair mortar that I'm using should do the job. Let's get this side apart and see how bad that looks. And this is the this is what they used as a house wrap when they did the vinyl. I'm sure when it was new it was fine, but alright, let's see how this one looks. You can see that what happened is water got in there and see, I glued this. I did this stuff. I actually slid this behind the siding my first winter in the house, actually right around the springtime. But shit out of there. So you can see right into the basement. But this stuff did the job. It really did. It did the job. And it did it pretty well. And then we put some foam shit in there. I'm going to take all this board off and see what the hell is going on behind there. Now, like I said, I was prepared to pull the sheathing completely off the house on these walls, just in case they were rotted. Alright, so we got all the J channel, most of the J channel off, and it looks alright. One thing that has me bothered here is there is a wire for a doorbell that's been run up, but I don't see any hole for a doorbell wire where one would have been ever. Should go right there, but there's no hole, there's nothing. So I'm going to make sure we run a new doorbell. I actually bought doorbell wire for that purpose because I have a lighted doorbell that's going to go here. And now what I'm going to do is once I get this stuff, as much of this off as I can, I think it was installed before the door was put in. So the brick mold is on top of it, which sucks. That's what this stuff is called. It's brick mold. That's original to the door frame. Funny how that's the only thing that didn't rot. But there should be a hole here somewhere for a doorbell. So you can see my plight here. There's like literally, they did absolutely nothing to prevent this from happening in the first place. It just shocks my mind to the core. I don't know how it lasted this long, honestly. And it's not like the porch has shifted or tilted or anything. It's perfectly in the position it was originally. Very strange. Hi. want to bend up this metal work up here because we're going to keep that. We're going to work it down from the bottom. It's going to take some of the siding with it. I don't want to ruin the brick either. Pulling the wood chunks out of the brick facade.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The house is gonna fall down.
No, it's not. This wall isn't holding up any weight. It's just there for. It's a real brick wall. It's just not holding anything, supporting anything. Okay, now we can see how this wall's put together.
Any secret messages?
But now we can see that camera. Alright, so now we can see how that was put together. These wood chinks were mortared into the brick. And that is how they secured the molding, and that's how I'm going to secure the new one. These are starting to rot away. Ooh, look at all that goo. You see so the wall, the brick wall, is right up against the sheathing. That looks pretty good. And they got tar paper as a house wrap. That's actually underneath the original siding. So we're going to put in new wood to replace what we just tore out, and that's going to take care of the mounting portion of it. This one's good. It didn't go anywhere. But you can see that that's how it's put together. Now this is just a testament to just how good wood was when this house was built. This is probably old growth lumber. I don't think it's treated or anything, but this was right here for 65 years, 66 years, just like that. It's definitely seen water, moisture. This one on the bottom, on the other hand, it never had a chance. We're going to have to replace, so I'm going to reuse some of these blocks. I'm not even joking. I'm going to reuse the ones I can because good lumber, good wood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill into this block, put a nice long screw in there to secure it to the main house wall. And that's going to, so we're going to do that here. I'm going to re-secure it. It's still solid wood, why replace it? So, so that'll happen. I'm just gonna put a nice, probably 4 or 5 inch screw, if I could find one, right down into it, just so that it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm saving these little furring strips just in case I need them for shims later on. And the rest of this stuff I'm gonna have to get rid of. So you can see. Just a sneak peek into the kind of ant infestation this house had at one time. This wood is all burred into by carpenter ants, and that's what's happened to all that siding. And you know, it's funny, they did some things really well and they did other things really badly. This threshold here I actually repaired. This threshold was dry rotted in a lot of spots here and there, and I stripped the paint off as best I could, all the loose paint, And then I just soaked it with wood hardener, which is like a dissolved ABS plastic in acetone. And you just soak the wood with it and let it soak in, let it dry, and then you do it again and again and again and again. Before you know it, you've got a nice hard, it solidifies the wood fibers. Then you take a 2-part epoxy wood filler, which is basically Bondo, honestly. It smells the same, it looks just like Bondo, the fiberglass stuff. And then what you do is you fill in all the nooks and crannies, and you let that harden, let that cure. Then you take your power sander and you sand it down, and then you paint it. So I don't need to replace my threshold now. That looks almost brand new now. This whole face was kind of, it was dry rotted. It wasn't rotted, but it wasn't looking good, for sure. Right, so I just took all the I took all the material off of this board here, and to my surprise, it looks like this has been replaced already. This wood is not rotted. Well, it's still very solid. Very good. So I think that's been replaced. Maybe once or twice. But I still want to cut out the rotted to hell. Well, it's not really a joist. Yeah, it is kind of a joist that goes underneath or behind this. I'm just going to cut it out from the back and drop it down. I might be able to do that tonight. Just grab my Sawzall and cut it out of place, and then we'll see what's happening there. But what a shitty design. You can see that they actually poured this concrete. If I didn't know any better, I'd say they poured this after the siding was put in, because you can see, or they formed it that way. But you can clearly see that. Look at that. It was poured after the siding was put in. So if I were to hedge my bets, I would say that the foundation was poured and then this was left open. They put in all the floor joists. They built the walls, but how? No, that can't be right. It makes no sense. But you look and you can see that the concrete conforms to the wood, or to where it used to be, because that wood has shrunk and expanded many times over the years and shifted. Man, is that really how they did it? It almost seems ridiculous, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna say ridiculous. Well, that's how they did it. Well, anyway, the good news is it looks like I can get this board out, and then I'm going to be replacing this board with PVC. That one above it, and the one beside it, and then there'll be PVC here. Everybody gets PVC. And we're going to see just how the inside of that wall looks. And so, what is zip board anyway? Well, this is basically your sheathing and your vapor barrier in one. It has a layer that is basically probably hot rolled onto it. You can see this in green or tan depending on application. I see this stuff everywhere, and I figured I'd give it a shot. And this is what we're going to put over top of the original sheathing. Basically, it's going to take the place of that milled board siding that's there, the tongue and groove stuff. And this is going to be the new. This is what we're going to put our vinyl on, directly on this. The benefit of this is you don't need to put plastic or house wrap over top of this. It's basically built in. And what you're supposed to do is use their special tape between all seams. But the benefit of what I'm doing here is I should be able to get the whole job done with one board. It's a 4x8 sheet. And I should be able to get enough wood out of this to do the whole thing. So I just realized I miscalculated, and it's going to take 2 of these sheets, but I only have the one. Shit. So we're down in the basement, and you can see pretty clearly who we got going up against ourselves here. So it looks like we've got the, there's supposed to be a floor joist right here, but yeah, it's kind of missing. We'll fix that at another time. But we're gonna pull back what's left of the original siding. And yeah, you can clearly see they use the siding as a form. Like, what the, you know, seriously. So, what have we learned? That they didn't use sheathing at all. They used siding as sheathing. That's actually not an uncommon practice even today, but I still wonder. Now, this wall is not a 2x4 wall. It is a 2x3 wall. Which is hilarious. This is the back of the kitchen wall. So the cabinets are right over here. As you can see, there's some 50s math going on here. I wonder what that was about. 65 times 60 times 8. What the fuck? Or is it 60 times 8? It's 486. Let's check that math using a pocket calculator here. Let's see. Calculator here. See, they didn't have iPhones back then. So 60 times 8 is 480. Oh, we put a 6 there. And then 280. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. But I suspect we're going to find all kinds of cool shit like that. Let's take this apart. I'm not putting this rock wool back in. I have new stuff. But we're going to take it all out. You can see there's some dirt on this board that's been there since it probably sat on the ground when it was installed. Let's check for any water damage down here. Yeah, there's none. This is solid. And then this right here, see, this is the subfloor. And this isn't really doing anything. The floor joist goes below this. So this is actually in better shape than I was kind of expecting, really. And you can see the back of the rock lath. And that's what they used for the wall board. I've hit a conundrum. I can't get this board out. Not easily. But honestly, if you go in an older house like this and you start pulling back the layers of the onion, so to speak, you're going to find notes and, you know, all kinds of shit. Okay, so I got all the trim on this side, or the siding. And you can see that there is no insulation in this wall at all. In fact, I'm looking straight back and I see, it looks like the back of a light switch. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So that's the front porch light switch. This is the light switch for the living room lights. You can see that this is this is good news. They didn't staple the wiring to the studs, which means that when I go to rewire this house, I should be able to just pull the wire straight up and out. That's actually quite good news. So far, nothing I've seen has been stapled in any interior wall, so it makes repair or rewiring a lot easier. Now, what they did here is they've got a 2x4 wall. Looks like a 2x4 wall, and they just put lumber. So there's no insulation on this wall. This had that really thin gold bond shit, which I've taken out, and I'm going to put some new stuff. But here's the thing. The problem with that is this could be a full 2x4 wall, and it is. But they've got like a 1-inch gap between these little stringer things, and that's a problem. Because when you compress insulation, it loses its efficiency. But check this out. This wall is constructed from, and they're not even mitered or anything, not mitered, but they're not finger jointed or anything like that. They made this entire corner out of scrap, and they just cut and nailed and cut this one. Now, this was a very common practice back then. In areas that are not of any structural legitimacy, they would just use scrap, and that's just how they did it. You know, that's just how things were back then. But you see, I could never insulate this. This is a 2x3 wall, and there's no room for insulation in here. Even loose fill isn't going to do anything. See, back then, oil was cheap, and they didn't think about these things. This is for supporting the cabinets. So what we got to do, because we're moving and hammering this wall, we got to check the plaster to make sure we didn't crack anything. You know, the major demo is done. I just have one more. Just taking a little break. I've got one more piece of finger jointed or tongue and groove siding I got to worry about. But this wall right here is at risk because of all of our hammering and pounding. And we want to make sure that we don't crack that plaster, because that's going to be a nightmare to fix. Fortunately, it's all hidden in these cabinets. So I think I'm all right there. So, but yeah, they would just use scrap where they could, and that's what they did. And they still do that. Just not everyone knows about it. And then when they open up a wall or something and they see finger jointed studs, like in a mobile home or whatever, or, you know, studs that are stacked or cut. YouTuber Your Beekeeper does a lot of carpentry work, and I think that's his trade. And he did a video on redoing a kitchen from the 50s, and he pointed out that a lot of the studs on the walls were split and are cut halfway through and then wedged to be straight. So if they were crooked from the mill, they would straighten them by cutting them, bend them in position, and then wedge it and put it in. But these are just straight up cut. But again, there's no structural integrity here. There's no need for it. These walls aren't cracking yet, so that's good news. I'll take a little break and then I'm going to get back to it. Okay, welcome back to my hell. So, I'm making a huge mess trying to pull this floor joist out. What I'm going to do is, while I have this section apart, I'm going to replace at least, let's see, how's this one look? This one actually looks pretty good. We're going to leave this one and we're going to replace this one. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do now. And so I'm in the process of ripping it out. I've cut the nails going this way on each end, and now I'm just trying to get it out. It's nailed in from the top, and it's not budging. You might be concerned, well, oh my God, it's holding up all the house and everything and all that stuff. No, it's not. Amelia, Jesus. It's actually, this one here is nailed to this, what's left of this, which is nailed to this, which is still, well, there's nothing there either. Look at, there's nothing holding up this whole section. So I'm going to have to put something there temporarily until I get the sill ripped out. This is going to turn into a nightmare. I can already tell. I've got to cut that, so the sill is rotted about 2 feet back. So we've got to replace at least 2 feet of the sill. And then we can start working on replacing these floor joists. It looks like, you know, this floor joist, it looked solid, but it's not. It's really, I'm gonna have to temporarily re-support this whole thing, because there's just nothing there holding it up at all. Not surprising. Not surprising at all, but, you know. Don't buy an old house if you're expecting, you know, a joyful home ownership bliss, because this is the stuff that makes it very interesting. But I was not expecting the sill to be so far gone, but here we are. So yeah, all that wire is going to come off. I'm not prepared to replace the sill right now, but I'd like to get that worked on soon. Ay, ay, ay. What a nightmare. This side isn't so bad. You know, this side is, you know, you got a little bit of rot there, but it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's really not that bad. But this one here, Jesus, Mary Christ. Yeah. Okay, so I just had my girlfriend stand right above my head and bounce a little bit to see what kind of movement we're getting, and it wasn't really good. So what's happening is there's a little bit of flex right there. So in the meantime, I'm going to put, I get a vacuum, but in the meantime, I'm going to put a chunk of pine, like a pressure-treated pine or something, just wedge it between the foundation wall and there so that there won't be any more movement. So at least it'll shore it up a little bit until we get the rest of this work done. As of this moment, my friends, the demolition is done. Now it's time for reconstruction. What you're looking at right now is the bottom of my door frame. Looks pretty good. So we wanted to rip out that one rotted piece, and then we can start rebuilding. I'm liking it. I was having a hard time because I didn't know there was rebar here. It looks like I cut right through that with my Sawzall, which is designed for nails, not fucking rebar. I digress. Okay, but so tired. All right, by this point we've got big mess down here, but we've got this new piece in place. It's secured with construction screws, which are pretty durable things. What we're going to do next, now I've already built it out so that it'll be flush with the face of the door of the entryway, so I can start putting my trim in place. But before I do that, I have to work on getting the concrete built up to prevent this from happening again. I'm going to be using repair mortar for that, and let's take a look at how that's going to happen. So you've got the door completely trimmed out. I'm going to be coming back with some 1/4 round and 1 round moldings to finish off the job like the other doors. I've got some cotton candy in the walls. I know this is not a very ideal installation, I should point out, as everybody else will, so I'll try to get there first. But blown in insulation would make more sense here because it can be put in, it can conform to the oddball shapes and sizes in this bay. I know that, and you do too, but I don't have blown in insulation. I'm running out of daylight and I'm running out of patience. I just need to get this job done. That's all I want to do right now. Get it done. And you can clearly see that I've actually used flashing tape, the zip system stuff, on all edges of this board because it just seemed like the thing to do. I mean, moisture, it just takes a little bit of moisture to get into this shit. It just goes to hell, so we don't want that. Okay, welcome back. So what have we done? Yeah, what have I done? Alright, so as you can clearly see, I did some masonry work here. I have, so what I did is I installed the wall sheathing. And then I ran, of course I wrapped the edges in tape, which I think was the smartest thing I've ever done. Then of course I installed it, and I put a piece of bitchathene or Vicor flashing all the way to the bottom of the board and wrapped it around. And that's to protect the board and, you know, all of the sealing properties from the trowel as I pack these seams with mortar. And I followed the instructions on the box. I think I did it right. You have to wet the concrete. Of course, you want to scrape it and clean it as best you can. And yeah, see, I had to get water on this board. Whoops, didn't mean to get it on the board, but we'll let that dry before we seal it up. You have to wet the concrete. Shit, that didn't work out so well, did it? You had to wet the concrete so that it can take the mortar mix, and then we trowel it in. I used a round nose trowel all the way around. The original trim was so this is the mind-blowing aspect of this house. I don't quite understand what the hell was going on. They sided the whole house. They put the trim boards in place, they put the sheathing in place, and then they poured the slab. This doesn't look like it was a re-pour. I think it's original, which is all the more surprising. I don't quite understand what was going through their minds. I don't know why they did that. So here's what was happening. The exterior trim boards were down like 6 inches, all the way down. And when those boards rotted away, water just poured right on in. And that's what was causing all that water damage. So at this point, I think we're clear. We're in good shape. We have it sealed up. Once this concrete cures, I'm going to give it a few hours. It's fast setting mix. I'll be able to put another layer of bitumen that's going to overlap the curbing that I put in. Now, as for this wall here, this is good and done. Water isn't going to be raining down, and it's not going to be a problem. We're just trying to prevent water from going over the slab, like running over it. This usually doesn't get too wet over here, even in heavy rain. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think this will hold up. Only time will tell. One thing's for certain, though, this is better than what they originally did. It's way better. Let's see what it looks like from the inside. Oh yeah, and I finally hooked up the doorbell. I suspect the original wire is behind this frame. I think it's going to be right about here. Just a hunch. I think that's where it's going to be. I think they ran it up that way. So, at least we have a doorbell on the front door now, and it lights up just like the same doorbell switch that's on the other side. I do have to go to the store to get some quarter round trim. We're going to go around all of this, decorate it all, and then I'm going to get some probably inch round so a couple inch round, a couple quarter round, dress it up nice. Oh yeah, I still got to finish that. Whoops. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so we're starting the trim out phase. And I've got the upper trim in place. Now we're going to put quarter round around all that when the time comes to, make it nicer. And every screw hole, which is recessed, will be leveled off with vinyl patching compound. Now, one of the things I'm doing to try to improve upon what was there is I'm putting a 25-degree angle cut at the bottom of these trim boards, which will force the water to shed, beyond that lip. It's better than nothing. I've got a few gaps I need to caulk. So I still have that going on. I still have to put trim around the, quarter round trim to hide the gaps. The thing with this PVC stuff is you really have to leave a gap for expansion. This stuff is very, it will expand and it will warp if you're not careful. So now we're getting to the point where it's starting to look like a house again. So I got one corner done. Now for this one. So we basically were replacing old pine boards that were wrapped in metal with never needing to be ever painted PVC vinyl. PVC lumber. It'll never crack, shrink, warp, rot. Of course, we'll see what happens in 25 years, but, there's always hope. So there's one side done. I got the drip edge in there. May not be necessary, but I figured why not. It's a free country. And just like I did with the others, I put a 25-degree cut at the bottom of this board. So that water will not be tempted to run towards the house, but rather away, where it'll be shed this way or that. And I actually bonded this mostly with adhesive because there really aren't many anchor points. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, should be a fifth one. Yeah, there's a fifth one right here. Anchor points that are set into the brick. I don't want to dig out my my masonry bits and all that. We'll see how this holds up. If it doesn't, you know, we'll always redo it again. You know, we'll fix it later, but this got pushed in somehow. I didn't notice that until I was starting to drill shit in, but whatever. Okay, so I just want to reiterate a couple of things. So the damage to the sill is evident to at least, maybe, probably about the second bay in. So we're going to be cutting the sill back probably that far, at least. We're going to probably test drill it in a few spots, see where we're at. But that will have to be replaced, no question. Now, there's no visible damage here. Imagine that. Looks perfectly fine. This would have passed a house inspection, hands down. And it did. But he did notice, when I had the house inspected that, there was some damage here. But you couldn't see any of this. It was all hidden. So, where do we go from here? Now, after noticing that there was so much flex in the floor when a good amount of weight was applied to this region, I went ahead and I cut this piece of pressure-treated lumber, and I just knocked it into position. Now, there is enough meat on this joist and this joist, if they're supported right here, to carry the load almost indefinitely. I'm not really the least bit concerned about it at this point. We've essentially solved the problem, and now we just need to do some healing. And I'm really not that worried about it at this point. This house will survive, and this won't cost a lot of money if I do it myself and if I do it right. Now, I'm not going to just go to Home Depot and buy some 2x10s. What I'm going to do, because a 2x8, a 2x10 cut down to a 2x8, a real 2x8, which is what this is, will fit the height, but not the depth or the thickness. So that will continue to be a problem. It's going to create, it just won't align right. So I'm going to go to a lumber mill or a lumber yard, and I'm going to get a proper 2-inch by 8-inch, piece of lumber and put that in that position. We got to find out what the dimensions of the sill are. We know the height, we don't know the depth, and then we'll be able to piece something in to fix that. It's pretty obvious how little weight is on this guy here. There's almost no weight on it because, if you look at, the floor above, there's nothing there. There's nothing, it's not supporting anything, which is why this hasn't collapsed. Now, if the damage that's done on this guy here was as bad as, if it was carried over to this side, then we'd be in some deep, deep trouble. If this side was as bad, or if this side was as bad as this side, it would be an absolute catastrophe. Because these are carrying the entire kitchen. And that's bad news bears if that were to let go. It's just there's so much weight on these. But we've got our pieced in. You can actually see the width difference between a modern 2x8 and an old-fashioned 2x8. This is actually 2 inches. This is whatever. But you can see the work I did from above. And it's all well and good. Folks, I think we're in good shape. I think we're all set. I have high hopes for the future. I figured now would be a good time to take a quick pit stop and take a look at progress. So we got some siding going up. This side's all done. Really what's left is, I mean, once I finish this, it's just final trim. I'm going to be putting the quarter round in the corners all the way to the bottom. Boom, boom. And I'm planning on adhering that into position rather than nailing it. We'll see how that goes. I don't like vinyl siding. I think it's ugly, but it's very cheap and affordable. Easy to do. Very, very easy to do. Now, I had originally had plans of putting an outlet right there, but I scrapped those plans. I want to put the outlets along the foundation wall. I don't want to put them where they can be whacked or it'll be in the way. So we just had a massive downpour, water everywhere. We were driving in the Miata and we actually ended up stopping in an overpass or on the highway, and you could see the wall of rain ahead of us. So the first overpass I found, I stopped and we took the top, put the top up. Anyway, so I figured I come home and see how this is holding up. So we're having a little bit of a downpour here. You guys are probably anxious to see how this all came out, and I'm going to show you right now. So this is what we're at. This is what we got. We got the siding in. Got the door yet to do. I have to do the door. That's coming next. I have the door. I just need to put it in. But before I do that, I'm going to take this one off, and I'm going to scrape and paint the brick mold before I put the new door on. Got all the trim work done. There's some quarter round. How do you like the joints? It's not my best work, but you know, it's not like I had the best of tools. I have one worn out miter saw that's like a hand cut miter saw. And that's what I used. Got all the caulking done around the door and the kick panel. I got a couple of things I have yet to do, and that is I have to, well, I got to clean first of all, but I'm going to apply some masonry sealer to the concrete, the visible layer of the concrete, or the mortar that I put in, just to give it that extra bit of insurance against water leaks. So, but we have had, again, a massive downpour. And this is pretty much the amount of rain that we're ever going to get here. So let's take a look downstairs and see how things are holding up. So that's where the proof is in the pudding as to whether or not my efforts have been in vain. But that's what it looks like from the front of the house. I kind of like it. I think it looks a lot nicer than it did before. You know, I never really liked the vertical siding look anyway, so this is kind of a major improvement. Oh my god, what a mess. I gotta clean up the mess. Oh my god. Let's take a look. So, if all's well, we should see no drips, no water, nothing crazy. Should be dry as a bone, or bone as a dry. Should be pretty clean. And so far, everything is good and dry. I don't see even a single drop. So that's about what I was hoping for. That's kind of the best case scenario, if you will. And everything seems to be holding up okay. Thank God. So now we can start cleaning up this mess. And, oh my God. I'm gonna burn all of this wood in the fireplace. Just break it up into smaller pieces and we'll burn all that. Alright, so I took the old door off and painted the jamb. I just took a wire brush to it to remove any loose paint. I didn't go nuts with it. It's just, honestly, I'm not looking for perfection. But I gotta put another coat on it. It is probably about 90% humid out here right now, so that's why this paint is gonna take forever to dry. put the light fixture back together. I took that, that is a stainless steel frame. But the back side of it is a steel support bracket for the hinge. So I took the whole thing and I dunked it in Evapo-Rust overnight and put it back up this morning. Came out pretty good. I still have pencil marks and shit everywhere. I'm gonna have to clean this all off with I think 409 will clean that up pretty well. Forget what I've used before. I think 409 is the trick though. You know, this is my first ever siding job, so you know, it's not perfect. None of this is perfect. I went back and I caulked all the seams on the on these boards so that water can't come in this way and drip down. We just had another rainstorm. This one was pretty heavy and fast, and again, no leaks in the basement. Again, for further insurance, we're going to coat this this little seam here with crown seal. It's a very, very expensive substance, but I actually have a full bucket of it from when I did my chimney crown, and it's designed to seal masonry permanently. So we're going to put crown seal all around, and I think that'll see, because so the mix was, I think, a little bit too wet when I put it in, at least on this seam, that it cracked right there. I'm not too concerned about that. The crown seal will take care of any of that. But one of the things that I did differently from what I was originally planning on doing is I can still repair any of this. If this fails, I can still fix it without pulling the wall apart. I left myself more than enough room to allow that to happen. So if I have to chisel all this shit out and redo it differently, I can still do that. So this is not like, oh my god, it didn't work, now I've got to tear the whole... No, we're done with that. And there's bitchethane protecting all the lumber inside there, so... Now, where the water was coming in before wasn't the back. Now, there was nothing sealing the back of this, like under the door. Nothing there to seal it. The water was coming in through here. It was running alongside the exterior trim boards and dripping down into that pocket which the trim boards originally ran into. And the water was then pouring in basically right on top of or under the sill. And the same deal over here. That's what was really going on. So that problem, I am confident we've permanently cured. But just in case, we're going to coat all that. Now, once that's all cured, I'm going to go ahead and acid wash the entire slab. Whole thing, whole staircase. Got all the stuff to do it. And we're going to clean it thoroughly. And then we're going to put a coat of paint on it. But I'm going to do some repairs to the edge. I'm going to feather in some repair mortar. Where do I have to do this? Right about here. Yeah, this edge, this step here is crumbling. And it'll, I've already made some repairs over here. That seems to be doing okay. I forget whether I used repair mortar or vinyl patching compound. I'm not sure which I used. But I've also got to fill in a hole here where the chipmunks keep getting in. But this is one of the projects that has given me the most anxiety since the day I closed on this house. So I'm glad to finally make some progress on it. And good progress at that. Been on this for 4 days. This is where I'm at. So all that's left at this point is to install the new door, which I'm not going to bother filming. I'm going to make this the final edit. This is it. And you pretty much get the idea as to what's going on. Oh, on a side note, remember when we were looking for the original doorbell wire? Ha, guess who found it? It's right there. The doorbell was drilled into the brick mold. And it was just a little push button, and it's mostly still there. But, again, the wire is still there in the back. And I could actually hook that up and use it, but I'm not going to do that. That's where the push button was. And what happened was, probably, 30 years ago, they put a screen door in place, and it covered up that hole. So I kind of like the house the way it looks without the storm door, to be honest, but you know, the storm door is a valuable thing to have when you want to ventilate the house quickly and efficiently. So it's also good for keeping the heat in the wintertime. But I'm gonna touch up this this threshold one more time once I have all that other paint worked on. This is gonna get touched up, and it's gonna look pretty. I'm thinking about putting an aluminum kick plate at the bottom of this door, 36-inch kick plate, just like I have on the other door. I think that would look nice. But because the new door is a full glass door, it's a little bit more visible than the previous one. So I think little touches like that might make it look a little nicer. Well, until then, guys, if the women don't find you handsome, they'll certainly find you handy. That was a joke. I mean, a line stolen from Red Green. Red Green? Anyway. Well, I think we're done. Basically, we're done.